All right, so we live. We're gonna let people come into the room. We'll keep an eye on things. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. Welcome to House Culture Conversations. Tonight, I'm excited to have Just King Dave in the building. We're going to be able to see our faces in a minute as soon as I figure out how to work the camera. Hey, what's happening?
What's happening, man? I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. It is good to see you. Now you're in the ATL now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Northeast Georgia. I'm about 45 minutes northeast of Atlanta.
Okay, now we've been having a cold snap. So how cold has it been in Atlanta?
It's been teens in the lows, 20s. But we didn't climb up. It got up into 50s today. So
okay,
this is the first.
You back.
This is the first back day in for a long time, man. I was just telling my wife yesterday, this is the longest coldest snap that I've seen in a long time, man, down here. And I'm like, that's why I left Chicago. I didn't need all that.
Well, hey, we got plenty of people that love negative temperatures, and we're just gonna send a shout out to them. Big shouts.
Big shouts out to all those that love the cold, like my brother up in Minnesota. I'm like, dude, stop it.
Hey, thank y'all for vibing with us. If you are in the chat, say hello. We'd love to say hello to you. If you are lurking, we appreciate your ears. We are just kicking things off with Just King Dave. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, because you're not from Atlanta, and what were some of your musical influences growing up?
Absolutely. First off, I appreciate you having me on. I am originally born and raised in Chicago, Inglewood area. Inglewood Hospital. Yeah, man.
And you made it.
I made it. I
tell people a little bit about Inglewood for those that don't know.
So back in the day, Inglewood was a very rough area. It is up and coming now from what I'm seeing, but I'll give you a quick story. In my junior year of college, we moved out of the dorms into an apartment on 65th and Yale. They call that building the Carter. And for those of you that are New Jack City watchers and lovers, you understand what they mean by the Carter. So just to kind of give you an idea of the type of neighborhood it was, there was a young guy. His name was Jermaine. He was 15 years old, and he ran from 65th all the way over to 71st Street as a general for one of the gangs. And I won't get into any politics.
That's it. So needless to say, Inglewood, I mean, the fact that you're here, you're beating the odds, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it is definitely good to hear that you navigated that, because Chicago, beautiful city. There are some rough places where you don't want to be. But tell us again, where did music come in, and how did you have music growing up in your life?
So music was kind of ingrained in me just from various people in my life. So my dad, he sings. I have an uncle. My uncle actually lives down here in Atlanta. He's a professor, but classically trained baritone. PhD in conducting, all of that other kind of stuff, right? My grandfather on my mother's side, he was a jazz trumpeter. So, he was always listening to his jazz and smoking his pipe, right? So back in the day, driving in his Lincoln,
Oh, that's
So
great. How come the pipe is so,
man,
synonymous with jazz?
I know, right? I know. But he was just a real cool dude. So I would listen to, the music that he would play. I would listen to all of the music my dad would play, and just, loving the albums and loving to play the records and stuff like that. I remember my grandparents, I used to stay over there a lot when I was younger. They used to stay on 78th and Kenwood, right across from that big Sears that used to be
Oh
there.
yeah, the big
Uh,
Sears,
yeah.
absolutely.
They had one of those old floor model uh, record players. The one that had the tone arm, man, and you
Right. Oh,
kept all your
absolutely.
records, and they would
Now,
drop
did it
down.
have a TV too, or was
They
it
had the
just
TV,
it had the TV in
had the
front and
TV
a half
there.
hour? Yeah. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and
That was
so
like I was a come up. If you had one of those, that was
yeah,
like a big come up back then.
yeah. Well, and see what's cool about my grandparents, man, they had their own bus service back in the 70s, man. In fact, they used the very back of the Sears parking lot to park their buses. And my dad, he was one of their bus drivers, And so, even while I was a little kid, little wee dude, he would be on the bus singing and playing his music and stuff like that. So when you ask for inspirations, a lot of my inspirations came from my family, man, just listening to, everything from, blues and jazz, rock and roll, R&B, classical,
Now,
So,
what were a couple of your favorite songs? Yeah, when you grew up, there's always a couple of songs that you remember that. Yeah, that was the jam.
I think for me, it was the OJs, and that anytime I would hear I love music, dude, and it's to this day, it still takes me to a whole nother level, because that is the very reason why I got into DJing, because I just simply love music. Of course, you got to get into the JBs, James Brown, because not only did my family, love listening to music, they were skaters too. So of course we had
I
to
was
get into
going there. I was going there.
yeah,
When you
man.
said JV, I was going like, so did you roller skate growing up?
Yeah,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
man. I
yeah.
wish I can get out there now, but my knees ain't about to have that.
Dreammaker Diva, welcome in. Good to see you. Just getting started with Just King Dave, having a good time. He's from the Shy, so what can I say, right? We got so much
Absolutely.
to talk about. Now, did you go to the Loop on 95th?
You see my face, right?
Yeah, okay. There's it. Didn't even have to ask, right?
Right
So
from
everybody from Chicago knows the Loop on
bruh.
95th. That was the main roller skating. There was one out in the south suburbs, and I think it was one up north from what I recall.
Yeah, the rink was up north. I mean, the rainbow was up north.
Up
Rink
north,
was
yes.
over off, was that 87. Then you had Screaming Wheels. I think you was talking about Screaming Wheels out south, deeper out south.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Charles Horton in the building.
My man
Markham.
Charles,
That's it. He knows where the skating rink was.
no doubt. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Dreammaker Diva, salute to you. Good to
That's
see you.
it. That is it. So now you said that's why you became a DJ, and you started DJing in
86.
'86. So this was before. This was just when you started getting into high school.
Yeah, so I was in 86, I was 15. So let me give you the story on this. It's gonna make you laugh. So my dad, again, going back to his love of music, he always had pristine equipment. So he had a Marantz turntable, and the Kenwood, the Alpine, amplifiers and Kenwood speakers and all that other kind of stuff. And so he always kept his stuff covered under plastic and all that, so it wouldn't get dust. But when he was gone, which was quite a bit because he worked a lot, I would go get his records. And this was right around the time when the b-boy era was there, breakdance and all that other kind of stuff. And so I called myself wanting to learn how to scratch. Okay, I want you to follow. I don't know if you remember the Marantz turntables. They had those very expensive diamond tip needles.
Mm.
And because I'm sitting there, trying to learn how to scratch, which I never did learn how to scratch. I'm not going to even front. I was never good at it. I would scratch up his records. And I didn't realize the very last time I did it that I actually broke his needle. And so he came home one day and he wanted to listen to some music. And he put his records on and the tone on just, I just, if you ever had a bad needle or one that came off the bed, would just slide across his record. And he called me, Dave. I said, yes, sir. He said, you been in here messing with my stuff? Oh, no, of course, 15. No, man, I ain't messing with your stuff. He said, come here. So he brought me in there and he showed me, the tone on and the cartridge and all that. And then sure enough, that needle was gone. And then he showed me about 3 of his records. Scratches all through them. I was like, man, he said, man, go into your room. So I went to my room. D-Lot, I promise you, about an hour later, he said, come on, let's go. I'm like, uh-oh, where are we going? Man, we went downtown. We went to this equipment shop. And that man said, pick out some mixing equipment. And I'm like, yo, for real? And lo and behold, man, that's how I got started. My dad was like, yo, you're not going to tear up my stuff anymore. Right? But there was another caveat to that I found out later. Because growing up in Chicago, there's a lot of gangs. Mm-hmm. And at 15, with nothing really to do, I was starting to be impressionable. And so he was like, I need you to get you something that you can, do for yourself. And that's how I got my start, man. I was the only kid in the neighborhood with it. So when I got it, all my buddies learned how to DJ as well. Wasn't the greatest, because I didn't have anybody teach me how to pitch blend and all the rest of that kind of stuff. I did a little, the little backspin and all that kind of stuff, or slam the records in or whatever. But it was, man, this dude is different. So I had a lot of people coming over and learning. My little brothers and stuff learned on it. And I would say if I had to title my journey, it was never about fame. It was always about fun. Mm. Okay. So, we could get into some other stuff as to, some of the other endeavors, but
well, we have some unfinished business.
Okay.
Everybody's trying to make sure they can stay tuned in because they want to know what side of Chicago you was from. Now you get to tell them like you told me. You tell them.
So I grew up, I was born and raised in Inglewood. I lived on the south side of Chicago until I was 8 years old. Then I moved, my mom and my dad, they went their ways, and I moved with my dad up north to Rogers Park. And I grew up my teenage years in Rogers Park. And then around 16, we moved back to the south side when I was over in the Wild Hundreds. So, but even in that, I stayed on the south side quite a bit because, like I said, my grandparents, they lived on 78th and Kenwood, right across from the Sears. A couple of my buddies, they lived on 92nd and Cottage Grove, and even my blended family that we moved back out onto 104th in Indiana, they lived on 104th in Indiana for forever. So I was out there since I was a little guy,
So I think the consensus is that is the South Side mainly.
Mainly.
And, we'll go with that. And,
exactly.
For sure. Let's acknowledge a couple of folks. Dream, Mega Diva. We see you, Lou Agria. How are you? Lou Agria 11. And let's see, somebody else came in the room. Tony Essence,
my man Tone.
Yes, thanks for vibing with us. For sure, we appreciate you, Crazy Berry Town. If I missed you, just jump back in the chat and we will say hello to you. We appreciate you. It's the Candy Lady.
She said Southside.
Ain't nothing like the South Side.
Ain't nothing like the South
I mean, there's the city and then there's the South Side, right?
Right.
But, so you started DJing in high school, right?
Yeah.
Now, you've been DJing for years now. What influenced you to stay with it, even when you went to college and onward?
I appreciate that. So as I got better in high school, started doing little block parties and stuff around, the neighborhood and stuff like that. I ended up I wanted to go to Eastern Michigan for college with my cousin, but my mom, she worked at Kent Law School. So that's connected to IIT, or Illinois Institute of Technology. So I was kind of overruled in that because she worked there, I got to go there for free. So she's like, that's where you're going, right? So I ended up going to IIT. And this is where the story gets kind of tragic. So in the end of my senior year, going into my freshman year of college, we had a basement party at the house. And right when I went to school and came back, I got a call saying, "Hey man, come home, something happened." So come home, and somebody had broken into our house, and they only stole my equipment and some records. They left me with 3 crates of records. That's it. Stole all my equipment, and this was back in 89, 90. So I don't know if you can understand the devastation that I.
Well, when you said tragic, I was thinking something a little more grave. DJ Dave 753, welcome in. Good to see you.
DJ Dave, what's good?
Yeah, but I guess for a DJ getting your equipment taken, that is life altering for sure.
Yeah, and what it was, I think it was my brother that's right under me. He was heavy in the streets. And he had some rank in some of those organizations. I put it like that. And I think it was some people that came to that basement party that got a little, envious.
Scoped it out.
Scoped it out, and they came in and
that's what Charles Gordon said. I mean, most times it's people that's been scoping you out and then got access to you, and they wait for you to be away and take advantage.
Exactly. So then when I went to IIT, they did have equipment, and so let me backtrack a bit when it comes to my name, and you'll understand where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So I am a junior, so I'm David S. Rogers Jr. My dad is senior, so my family always called me DJ, right? And so even when I would introduce myself to people, I'd be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm DJ." And so when I was at IIT, everybody would be like, "Oh, your name is DJ, but are you a DJ?" And so it's like, well, coincidentally, yes. But then I would give everybody that same story. But man, somebody just stole my equipment, right? And so, lo and behold, there was a Black Student Union group there that was having a welcome party for all of the new students, and they needed a DJ. And so they asked me, and I'm like, well, yeah, I would. I got a few records, but I don't have any equipment. So they had equipment. So that's how I started, just the little local, on campus stuff, right? So then one day there was this alpha. I remember him, man. He was a good dude. His name was Bobcat. Bobcat was like, "Hey, man, I know you don't have your own equipment." He said, "Why don't you come to the studio one day and listen to my show?" So Bobcat had he had the Slow Jams show on I think it was Sunday nights from like 9 to 12 or something like that. The Quiet Storm. He had the Quiet Storm.
Oh, the Quiet Storm. Indeed.
Right. And so I would go and just sit back and listen to him play the records. And I would watch what he was doing on the control boards and watching him play PSAs and listen to when he would, have to do certain announcements and stuff like that. So I did that for a few months. And then all of a sudden he was like, "Hey man, you want your own show?" And I was like, I froze. I'm like, he was like, "Well, you are a DJ." And I'm like, "Well, I was talking about DJ on the other piece." He's like, no. Look at it from a different perspective. And so lo and behold, I went through the whole, the training and learned what was needed, what was not needed, FAA regulations, all that other kind of stuff. And then I became my own DJ. And so that's when I started playing house on my own set. I would just, play house records and stuff like that. Now, mind you, I don't know for those that know IIT's down on 33rd in Michigan. So
We
the
used to go to the IIT college parties. We come
you
home
so
for
you
Thanksgiving.
understand what it is.
We know. Anybody that know, they know.
Yeah, they know
Come
that
home for the holidays.
you going to the
IIT
hub.
parties off the chain.
Off the chain. You going to the hub, man. I'm telling you. So with all that said, man, so I did that for a while. So much so I started they wanted me to be the training manager because I learned the equipment so well, learned how to, when to use, the PSAs, when to do the shout outs and all that other kind of stuff. And so because I started to get popular with a lot of folks from different places, New York, LA, Louisiana, all of that, I started pulling those cats in, training them on how to use the boards. And then I was giving them slots. And then next thing you know, I was the program director, right? Because Bobcat, he ended up graduating and they needed another program director and all of that. So my journey as a DJ really started to focus around the radio. And going back to, where IIT is, the radius wasn't too far. But the more we started playing, the more that bandwidth started to get out there. And I remember one Sunday, I had a Sunday afternoon show. It was called the Blackout Spot. And it was actually built around Lil Lewis's track, Blackout. Oh. And I would always start my show with that, and I would always end my show with that. And I remember one Sunday, I got a call in. They was like, "Hey, man, you need to take this call." And I'm like, so I patched the call in. It was somebody on 79th and Kenwood, right at the Sears. "Hey, man, I'm driving by the Sears, man, and I hear you playing, man. Keep playing that good house music." And I'm sitting like, wow, we stretched way out there. Because, at that particular point, the biggest college radio station was KKC.
Yeah, exactly.
And so taking y'all a step back and getting into how I got into house, man, back in 84-ish, somewhere around in there, on Saturday mornings, me and my buddy would be on the phone when we would listen to Barbecue Bobby and Pink House on their Saturday morning excursions.
Come on now, Barbecue Bobby. This brother taking us back, y'all.
Right?
Y'all know Barbecue Bobby. Come on now.
But I don't know if y'all remember that Saturday morning slot that they had. I think it was about 10 o'clock. They would play, it was called House Excursions. Bruh, they would play some of the deepest house you ever imagined. And this is before deep house was what is considered now. Deep house back then in Chicago was old disco and old R&B that we would consider deep house, right? And if anybody want to dispute me on that, we can go into the debate. But anyway, which is why I was surprised that deep house got hijacked like that. But anyway, so just listening to those guys when I was younger, that's why I was like, man, I want to kind of emulate that, in my show. And so I went to IIT for 3 years, and then I left there and went to Roosevelt University for a year, Roosevelt downtown. And lo and behold, they had nobody on their radio show. So I went from WOUI, which was IIT, to WRBC, which was Roosevelt. And I did the same thing there for the year that I was there. So
that's an incredible story. Hey, what's happening, Midas Retouch, DJ DCI, DJ Real, straight fire in the building. So good to see you guys. Thanks for vibing with us. We have been burning through the time, Just King Day. Now, where did the name come from, Just King Day?
All right. So give you a little bit of backstory. So in when was that? Sophomore year in college, I kind of ventured off into the whole rap game, right? Because even in my senior year, I started, writing rhymes and all that other kind of stuff. And I actually went to, because I was working hard back then, I went to the studio with my own money and I paid this guy to do this track for me. And y'all probably remember the Betty Wright song, Tonight. Right. Doom, 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 doom. Right.
Oh, yes.
So I went to the studio to record this rap that I did, and laid the tracks down. And about a week or so later, I came back to get my mix down. and there was this white guy there. And he was like, and so I wanted to listen to the track before I got it and paid for it and left. And so the guy was like, "Hey man, that's your track?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, I love that bass line." And so we got to talking. He was like, "Yeah, I'm from LA, and I'm out here trying to promote some people and stuff like that." Didn't think anything of it. And so left with my track, started sharing it with all my friends, even sharing it with my new friends at IIT and all of that. And then I did a talent show and at IIT, and my roommate and one of his buddies, they were in the Navy, and they kind of coined the phrase King. All right, let's go, King. Let's go, King. Never really associated Dave with it because everybody called me DJ. So, excuse me. Lo and behold, man, one day we were walking through the courtyard at IIT, and we were going through the 7-Eleven. And one of my buddies said, "Man, listen." And so we was in the 7-Eleven, and you hear doom, 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 doom. And I'm like, he was like, "Man, your song on the radio?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute." And you know who it was?
Who was it?
It was Candyman, Knocking the Boots. You remember I said the dude that was in there listening?
Yep.
And I promise you, everybody that knew me, they hated that song after that. They hated his song after that because they knew the whole scenario. And I never got, hey man, Candyman, if you listen, I need my royalties, brother. Because that was my track.
Now you said you had made that as a rap song?
Yes.
Now you remember the bars? You spit a few of those
bars?
That was a request from the crowd. I just got to ask. The crowd is looking for some
bars. The biggest part I remember, it was, I put the tick on the tic tac, the big on the big back, the heart on the heart attack. Now what you gonna do with that? I singled out this rhyme because I know it's my time to shape and motivate the lyrics that's on your mind. That's all I remember that
song. Fantastic. Fantastic.
So as I progressed, man, and went through school, I ended up leaving Roosevelt, man, and I had to leave Chicago because of the crowd that I found myself around. Okay. Before I left Chicago, I was really heavy at the Warehouse, and not the original Warehouse, but the Warehouse 2, if you will, where DJ Manuel and Mike Dunn and K. Alexi and Boo Williams and all of them, where we, got down. So from Thursday to Sunday, I was there. And I remember even DJ Emmanuel used to tried to do Mondays, right? At the Warehouse. If any Warehouse heads here, y'all probably remember that. But anyway, I started getting into some trouble, man. And then one of my buddies, he had an uncle down here in Atlanta that had, construction company. He was in the real estate and all that other kind of stuff. And so I decided to uproot and move down here. So when I moved down here, the life started lifing. And I took a pause from anything music related from 94 until 2014. Nothing. Because life was lifing. Kids was happening. Relationships was here and there, right?
Yeah. Life was life. And
life was life.
Radio Plus. What's happening? IAH Radio Plus. Welcome in.
5 a.m. What's good, brother?
5 a.m. Indeed.
So what's interesting, man, back in 2014, one of my childhood buddies that, I used to DJ with back in the day, he hit me up. He was like, DJ, you need to start DJing again. I'm like, man, come on, bro. It's been well over 20 some years. I would not be relevant. He was like, no, bro, come on for real. And after some convincing, I said, man, well, look, I don't have any 12s. I couldn't afford the 12s at that particular time. And he was like, 12s? He was like, man, everything is digital. I said, what? It's a who? He said, man, in fact, I got some CDJs if you want to buy them from it. I said, some who? Bruh, I'm telling you, it's like when I left music and lifestyle life thing, I would still listen to music, but I had no idea what the platforms were.
Technology,
where
it went. I feel you.
And so man, I literally bought this little Newmark mixer off of eBay. This thing was about maybe this big. It was just, and in fact, if anybody's on Mixcloud, my very first mix was back in that I posted was February 22nd of 2015. So almost 10 years on Mixcloud. You can see me, my laptop was bigger than the controller that I had. But I had to teach myself the current craft, but not the music. The music never left me, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I got back into what you see me do today. And so from that little bitty controller to what y'all see back here, I've come a long way.
Come a long way. Hey, well, this has been incredible, and there's so much more to explore. But I'm going to leave it here. When can people check you out? When can they catch you?
Yep. So I just recently changed my days. I was playing on Fridays, but because of work conflicts and stuff like that, I am now on Wednesday evenings, right after my man Tony Essence. Tony Essence plays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm playing from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. So I cut it back from 2 hours to an hour to help these old knees of mine.
Yes, indeed, DJ Soul Dave.
He said we need a part 2.
We are definitely going to get a part 2. So we'll figure that out. Maybe we'll let the cold air blow by us a little bit, and then we will schedule a part 2. This has been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
So let me clear this one thing up before we go.
Absolutely.
I was, as you can see on here, it was DJ King Dave for the longest. I started to lose my edge, and I said, you know what? I'm taking the DJ off. I'm just King Dave, man. That's it. That's where the just came from. I'm just that dude.
So now the full story. We got the full story. It was DJ King Dave, and then you're like, hey. I'm just
King Dave, bro. Yeah. I'm just King Dave. But man, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate you, D-Lot, for having me on, brother. Really.
No, man, this has been a blast. I'm glad we got a chance to connect and do this. There's so much to explore from your background in radio. So all about WNUR, about BMX, about all the so everybody. People from Chicago know, so that's always fun to go back and really explore some of the crevices of the culture because, we talk about it very broad. Oh, how started hit me in. We were in the streets.
We were in the trenches.
Right. We didn't talk about Mendel parties. We didn't talk about, there's so much.
We didn't talk about La Mirage. We didn't talk about none of that.
Right. So we're going to have a 3-part series. So, we are going to figure that out.
Okay.
We are going to head over to Grace Music.
Okay.
Let me see here if I can spell it right. I don't know how to spell too well. I was too busy at the party. So let me try to spell it real quick. But everybody, thank y'all for vibing with us. Y'all are everything.
Shout out to everybody in the chat room. We appreciate you.
That's it. I think I have this now. Make sure I double check it. So everybody in the chat, we are headed to Grace Music. And hey, listen, go in there, kicking down the doors and let them know that we are raiding on behalf of Just King Dave. And we are going to catch you guys real soon. For everybody on Facebook and YouTube, we will see you next time. We've got some amazing shows coming up for the mod world. Yogi Chick is coming real soon. And for everybody who knows, Momo TV will be around very shortly. So we're glad to have a time and appreciate you guys so much. So once again, say hello to Grace Music and we'll see y'all later.
Peace.
Hang on, Just King Day.
Yes, sir.